To make your yo-yos with a machine, you want to make sure your thread complements your fabric, and you want to have a very long thread coming out of the needle and out of the bobbin. So I've got about 10 inches of thread right there. And I have traced the template on my fabric with the template. I made a copy of the template and then cut around it, and I have traced it on there with a friction marker. You want to make sure that your stitch length is set up pretty high. This is like at a 5.5. I could go to 7, but in fact, I'll go to 6. Put your stitch length up to as high as it will go. And now you want to stitch around on the inside, just inside, like 1/8 of an inch maybe, all the way around the inside of the template. And when you come to the stop, so I'm going to put this toe right here, right on the line, so that I know that my stitch line is just inside of it. And we're going to go all the way around. And when you come up to the end, you want to go past it about 2, maybe 3 stitches. But you want, so here's where you started. You want when you come in to come just beside it like this, so that you don't cross over that. You don't want these to meet, and that'll make sense here in a minute. So let me stitch this around the circle. It helps to use your fingers. I don't have any stabilizer or anything on the back of this particular piece of fabric. You can see it's not perfect, it's fine. And when I come around, I want to make sure to get my tails out of the way so that I don't stitch over them. And I'm going to bring my line to right inside of my first, where I started. And that's fine. And now I'm going to raise my needle and pull another set of tails out. You want to take your scissors and trim on the line. Do not cut through any of your stitching. And don't cut off your tails. Okay, now you want to take both of the bobbin threads from the back and put them into a clip. There we go. Okay, and now you want to take your top threads. I'm going to use, let's see, the one I started with. And I'm just going to grab one. I'm going to start to gather. And it will just gather right up really nicely. And you can pull the other one to come from the same, the other direction. And you're just doing gathers like we learned in home ec. So simple. Okay. I'm going to try to get my cherry like right in the middle there. So cute. There. Oh, look how cute that is. It's too bad it's not going to be like that. So, but this is okay. I've tied a single knot. That's what we call good enough for government work. I think that'll look great, don't you? I want to do the block with the cherries that has the yo-yos that I just made. So I'm going to come down here to my yellow folder. I'm in Embrilliance, and I have my hoops set for the 130 by 180 millimeter, approximately 5 by 7. I'm going to come down to the yellow folder. I need the background quilting first. We need food 3. You can tell which one we need by looking at the diagram and the link below. And we're actually doing block number 13. From the first diagram, the quilting design guide, and then you can go to map block 13 to each section, and that's on the second diagram guide. And I'm going to go to embroidery files and PES because I have a brother, and block 13 wants you to use the 4x6, and it's horizontal or vertical. This is a vertical design, so I'm going to take a wild guess here and use this one. And we have a bunch of cherries. Great. Okay, and now I need to bring in the design itself. So this is the background quilting. Now let me bring in the design itself. And it's up here. I'm just going to drag it in. And there's not really a lot we need to do to this. I just want to make sure that the background quilting is first and then the design after that. And you can tell on this particular one, they actually have this stitch right here. Let me open this up. Right there. This stitch right here is actually a cutting guide for you. So that was very nice that they put that there. If you do not have the orange pop rulers, you can use these stitch lines right here as a cutting guide. So that'll be very helpful. And this is all we really need to do to this. I'm going to go ahead and go Utility and send to Solaris XP1. And I'm going to call it Cherries. And click OK. And it will go to the machine. If you don't have the ability to send the design wirelessly, then you will go up to File and Save Stitch File As, and you will use this drop down menu right here to find your USB drive. I don't have one installed right now. You want to make sure that down here in the Save As type that you have your embroidery file type right here, and you can change it by clicking on this drop down arrow, and you can choose whichever file type your machine uses. You want to give it a name and then click Save. If you are not using Embrilliance, then all you need to do is make sure when you click on your little yellow folder down here that it's a lot easier if you go to the View tab up at the top and make sure Navigation Pane, click on this button right here and make sure Navigation Pane is checked, and then you'll be able to grab this bar and drag it down. Make sure your USB is put into your computer and drag it all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see it right there. So here is the vertical food 3 that I need. I'm just going to click on it one time and drag it and drop it onto the USB. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here in this window. I'm going to grab the cherries and drag it and drop it onto the USB drive. And to see the details of how to open up 2 separate windows and make all of this work, I recommend that you go back to the video where I talk about moving your design files onto your computer, and I will link to that above. Okay, we're going to do the cherries block. This should be pretty quick. I'm going to pull up embroidery and the pocket for memory. I sent the design wirelessly. And let's see, there it is. Set. This stabilizer that is hooped has a crosshair in it, but that was from a design demo that I did for you guys in an earlier video. And I'm going to touch embroidery. Yeah, this one says it's just 9 minutes to stitch out. I already have white thread in the machine. I'm probably going to need a bobbin thread change, I think. Let's see. Yeah. I don't want to have to do a thread change in the middle of the cherries background. So I'm going to put a new bobbin in before I get it started. Okay, here we go. Ready to get started. Placement stitch for the batting. Put my batting over the placement stitch and it will tack it down. This will be the placement line for the fabric. Tack down line for the fabric. The fabric is already backed with fusible woven stabilizer. And now it's time for the background quilting. You know what? They have this in white and you can't see it. And I want to see it. So I'm going to stop it and I'm just going to cut the thread. I have a really, really light, icy baby blue that I'm going to use on this, and I think it'll look better. I'm going to go needle plus minus. I'm going to go back one stitch so it starts again. And I'm just going to let it stitch over the top. Oh, I have to thread the needle. It's always helpful. You can see it a little bit better. I like it. All right, I'm going to switch my thread out to a green, and we're going to do the placement lines for the leaves. Put my little ironing pad under here. This is a design in the hoop design I got from Embroidery Garden. Link to it below. Very handy. A lot of fun to make too. Very simple. Don't necessarily have to do the tack down stitches since they are ironed on. So I'm going to, this is the needle plus minus menu. I'm going to jump ahead one thread, and now it's ready to do that big bunch of satin stitching. Now I'm going to change my thread color to put the pretty bright, real light green on top of that darker green as an accent thread. This tail did not trim close enough for my liking. And on this block, you're going to get a trimming guide to tell you where to cut the fabric, so you can use your 4x4 orange pop ruler and place it properly on the second cut. And I'll show you how to do that at the end. I'm just leaving the thread the same because the thread will be in the seam allowance. All right, this turned out beautiful. All it needs now is a couple of yo-yos for cherries. Let's go trim it up. I'll show you how. The trimming instructions for the cherries show that it needs to be cut to a finished block of 4.5 by 6.5. If you have the rectangular set of rulers, it's really easy because they're already set. But if you don't, then there is a way to do it with the square set. And I'm gonna take a friction marker because it can be ironed away. I'm gonna mark a dark line right here so you can see these are the cutting guides that were the last stitch that were put down in the machine. And if you only have the square set, you can, I'll turn this around for you so you can see it. What you would do is line up your top, the top of the block right here, and go ahead and make sure it's straight so that this line that's down here is also lined up. You can just move it like that. That's the idea. And so you can also do this with a regular ruler if you don't have the pop rulers. Okay, I'm gonna do both. Well, I should, I've been doing this backwards, you guys. There. Then you want to get this aligned just right so that the mark from this corner is in here. This is really ingenious, y'all. Really is. Let's see if I got them. Yep, I did pretty good. Just this little bit right here. There, so that's how you can use the square set to make a rectangle block. And that's why they give you those two cutting guides right there. So that's great. Now we just need to stitch on the yo-yos. That turned out just adorable. How cute!